This baked lasagna casserole is what it sounds like. It is a lasagna without the work of layering. It all goes together in one casserole dish, but it has just as much flavor as your favorite lasagna. I'm gonna show you all the components. You're gonna put it together with me because it's super easy and you're gonna wanna make it. Let's go. I'm calling this lasagna casserole because it has all the flavors of lasagna without the layering, without all the extra work that a lasagna can take. It's a little bit simplified, it's quick, and it still has that casserole heartiness that we all want. So let's get started and talk about really how easy this is. So instead of lasagna noodles, we are gonna work with really whatever noodle you want to. I'm using a small rigatoni. I just like how it grabs onto things. The sauce can get all around it, that meat sauce. And so I think it works really well. What I have over here is water that has been boiling. I'm gonna let it come back up to that boil. And you can see, once it is boiling, make sure to season it. You want to season your pasta water. That's super important. That's the only chance you have to season your actual pasta. No, all that salt does not go in. So what we're doing is putting our pasta right in. We're gonna let that cook. While that's gonna start cooking, what I wanna do is also get ready our meat sauce mixture, which what I wanna do is make this so we don't have to take hours to make it. We don't have to go to too much extra work. Instead, what we're gonna do, take some great Italian sausage. It has flavors in it, it has seasonings. We're gonna amplify them later. We're gonna put this right in. We're gonna let it start browning and just add to it. I'm getting ready some onion and garlic while that meat is finishing up, which is pretty much brown now. Now, I am still under the old school kind of method of when I do my onion, cut it in half, obviously, then I make these horizontal cuts. Now, a lot of people don't think anymore you need to make these because if you look, an onion, look, it has those layers in it. I still think it dices easier if you make these cuts and then go down like this and chop it and dice it. That's just, you know what, you do whatever method you think is right. I just think this method still gives you a little bit more of an even dice. And as I'm talking and doing this, I realize it's hard to chop and talk, but we can do it. So what I'm doing is getting my onion ready, and you can see it's an even dice. Really what we want to do is now just fortify the sauce. I am using a prepared jarred marinara or red sauce, which you can see you can use your favorite one, but we want to fortify it, meaning amplify that flavor, add other things to it just to make it even better. So I have some garlic, I have some onion. I'm going to take this all right over to my sausage here, which is fully cooked. Now mine does not have a lot of excess grease. It has some, but I want to cook the onion. You have to always gauge that on your own. I have people always ask, why don't you drain your meat? If you feel it has excess grease, drain it. That's completely fine. I'm gonna let this start sauteing until it's softened, and we'll just put it all together. I just got done draining the pasta. It's sitting there, and now we're gonna take our jarred red sauce, whatever you like. It can be homemade too. I oftentimes use my homemade that I can and use, so it's whatever you have. What we have here is sausage that's ready to go. It has that onion you can tell is turning translucent and is softened. I'm again gonna add more flavor with just some Italian seasoning. It's the dried Italian seasoning, easy to have on hand. A little bit of black pepper and a little bit of salt. You have to gauge just a little bit if you have a sausage you're used to. Each brand is gonna be different. You know, whether it's local or not, how much salt is added to it. Same with jarred tomato sauce. So I'm stirring that in, and then we're just gonna add in all this beautiful tomato sauce, and this is our meat mixture. So it's really simple. There's not a lot of extra steps to it, especially when you're using a sauce that you love to begin with. Just gonna let that simmer a bit as we get our ricotta mixture. I'm letting that simmer just for a little bit as we get the ricotta mixture ready, which is really pretty much a classic to me, what you add to any lasagna when you're not making a fresh sauce, white sauce for it. So what I'm gonna do is just crack a couple eggs. And the reason I do this first is I like to have the eggs actually whisked together and smooth before because if you just add them like that and then add everything on top, it never mixes evenly. So if you take your 2 eggs, just whisk them up anytime you're gonna add them, same like I do to a meatloaf or anything. This is just gonna help them incorporate evenly. You actually wanna get that white and yolk somewhat combined, which you can see doesn't take long. And now it's gonna go together so much better and so much more evenly. So we have this ricotta. You could also use cottage cheese. Growing up, we always would have used cottage cheese because it was more readily available. So I have that mixture right in there, and now we want to just make sure we have everything extra in there to make it a perfect lasagna. So I have some salt. We're going to make sure we season it. You season it every layer. We of course have some parsley. So yes, it adds just some green, but it also adds a nice flavor. Parsley, especially the flat leaf Italian parsley, it has such a great green flavor to it. It's not just about looks, it's about that flavor too. So I'm gonna add that right in with everything else. And then we have got a little bit of stem, which is okay if you get some stem, but if you see a really big piece, you can just take them off. Then to that, we're gonna add freshly grated Parmesan cheese. And I grated it because I don't want the powder. I want that fresh, beautiful, grated Parmesan. It has so much flavor. It has a saltiness, has a nuttiness. And then some mozzarella. Now we're gonna put some more on top, but I want some in here so you have pockets of that cheese as it's really going into the casserole. And mixing it together is just to make sure everything's evenly incorporated. You know, this is one of those, this is not traditional or authentic, obviously, lasagna. I'm calling it a casserole for a reason, because these are components of a lasagna we would have had growing up, which means the one you would have had, it would have been very different, and I know that. And to me, that's the beauty of food. Food is gonna be different depending where you grew up, what your family thought was normal or not normal, or what was easy. And that's the beauty of it, is we all have these recipes, and they work together to create food we're either used to, or food that is cozy and comforting. That's what's important here. So what I have here is an easily mixed mixture of this perfect ricotta that's gonna be not layered in, and you're gonna see how we're gonna use it. So I'm gonna set that aside so we can get the pasta part ready. So remember, I drained it, and I did put it back in the pot. So you can see the pasta is cooked, but what I'm gonna do now is add all of this red sauce that has just been simmering away, and everything we did to make sure it had so much flavor. So we have the sausage in there, we have the sauce. What I do always make sure to do is when I'm working with the red sauce, if I can, I use a black spatula, because white, no matter what, if it is stain free or not, it will over time stain as they age. So I have all of it in there, and we're just gonna mix it. We're gonna make sure it's well mixed, and then we're gonna just start putting this together. Honestly, this looks like a meal in itself, but it's gonna get even better. Now remember, always cook your pasta al dente when you're doing something like this, because it's gonna really finish cooking here as it's sitting in that sauce and in the oven. So what we have is a baking dish, and we're just gonna pour all of this right in. I'm not gonna worry about layering in this case like we would with lasagna, and you're gonna see why. This is a casserole. The whole point is the rustic, which creates perfection. You know, I think you need to tell me what some of your favorite casseroles are. Put it in the comments below, because I think no matter where you're from, there is a version of a casserole, hot dish, whatever you want to call it, and it will be different for each person. So I'm somewhat evenly putting this out. You can see it's not perfect, but fairly. Now what I'm gonna do is more dollop this in about 6 is how I like to think about it. So visually you can break it into 6 and take dollops and just nestle them in. Not perfectly, and you're gonna see we're gonna just slightly work them in, and that's all we're gonna do. So there's still gonna be pockets of that ricotta mixture, but it's not gonna be layered in, because like I said, this is easy. This is quick. I'm not gonna force anyone to create those layers. And once it's all in there, you know all we're gonna do? We are not gonna do anything special other than just kind of mess it up a little bit. And you're gonna say, that's ugly. Yeah, it is. Don't worry about it. We're gonna put cheese over the whole thing. And what's gonna be beautiful about this is once we actually put the cheese on top, once we bake it, when you take out scoopfuls of this, you're gonna get these beautiful pockets of that ricotta mixture. You're gonna get now melted cheese on top. This is the rest of that shredded mozzarella. And you can see here, it's now becoming a casserole. I think food, a lot of times, we over worry about it. We talk ourselves out of making something because it's work. And then there are days where we wanna put in the extra effort. So this is for those days where it feels like work, but you want something good, or you wanna feed your family, or you're having friends over. Stop feeling like you have to make a full course meal with all the components. Make a casserole like this. Everyone's gonna remember the good food. So we're gonna put this right into the oven, let it get hot throughout, melting throughout, start browning the cheese a little bit, then eat. As you can see, when it bakes, it becomes just this gorgeous color. I love letting that cheese get a little melty. I'll turn the broiler on sometimes just to make sure it gets that nice browned crust on it. But at this point, you can serve it up. Obviously, when you pull it out of the oven, it's best to let it sit a little bit. I always like to push the boundaries just slightly. But as you can see, right away, I'm going into one of those, look at that ricotta pocket. So you get some of that ricotta with it, with some of, that's the best part here, is instead of layering it, you still get all those different elements you want. They're just mixed together irregularly, and that's what I love about it. So this is just like a big hug, and that's what I really enjoy. And even this, see how I like the rigatoni? When you go into it, do you see that filling that's coming out of it? That's what's nice about it. It really fills in. That's so good. And blazing hot, but it's so good. What you get is the flavors of lasagna. That's exactly what you want. That Italian sausage really ups it with the extra flavor. Then we added our own Italian seasoning in. All those create the perfect mixtures of flavor and texture. You get the meat sauce, you get that creamy ricotta mixture. And honestly, you don't even notice it's not in layers. All you notice is how delicious it is and how it tastes exactly like what you're hoping to get out of lasagna, but easier. So what do I hope you do with this? I hope you make it. I hope you make an easy weeknight meal that can be made the morning of, baked the night when you get home from work, and enjoyed. And don't forget, this is a great way to bring people together, obviously because it's food, but because you don't have to make a full meal when people are coming. Make a beautiful dish like this, serve a salad with it. Your friends, your family are gonna love it. Check my website, wiseguide.com, for this full recipe and all my other recipes as always. Until then, enjoy.